with silvery showers, a few drowsy hours, sweet scented bowers, and the joy of June flowers. A warm welcome to our small garden in Kent, South East England, for an early summer tour of plants we adore, with some unexpected horticultural happenings, like an apple tree emergency that left me feeling guilty, solving the mystery of why our intense violet blue iris emerged in a different hue, and poppies showing different characteristics from their parent plants, but charming nonetheless, and the shady pond haven for all friends froggy, with a butterfly laying her eggs in the holly. The collection of containers on the patio display includes perennials in pots and our seed-grown summer annuals. The alliums provide wonderful height, colour and form, continuing the structural element that the tulip array provided this space from April through May. After weeks of cold, wet weather, our cosmos are just beginning to flourish in the sunshine, and this year we've introduced some new cultivars. I'm utterly enchanted with the pure soft colour and generous petal size of Sonata Pink, which like all cosmos offers a rich pollen and nectar supply for insects. How have we never grown this pretty cosmos before? I think in the past I've kept pink on the patio to a minimum because there's an abundance of pink blooms in the garden, with the climbing rose Mary Delaney and our cascading hydrangea waterfall, which you see here coming into flower. So in the past I haven't wanted to overwhelm the garden palette with one dominant colour, but this gentle clear shade seems perfectly balanced and has an uplifting summer season feel. We're really enjoying its rather romantic presence. The most interesting, lively and memorable parties are the ones where a whole mix of people and personalities on the guest list mingle together in a diverse but cohesive gathering. There are guests with a quietly confident presence who are happy to let others look their best. This is the role of our two favourite foliage plants. The first is Melianthus major, with its cool grey-green architectural backdrop. And the second is the smoke bush, whose beetrooty purple leafage is a contrasting foil to showcase the beauty of other flowers to great effect. Then there are the wallflowers, but in this instance they will never feel excluded because they always have guests buzzing around. There are the gatecrashers, who were not invited to the party but drifted in on the breeze, and everyone realises it's a far more lively space with them in it. There are gregarious guests that want to mingle with everyone at once, and this is the role of Salvia ceropetosi, who feels rather constrained in its own container and wants to be around everyone else. Some guests feel relaxed enough to wear denim to the party. Others are bright and charming, never unruly, and you realise the more you get to know them, the more they have to offer. There's always a wild child or two at a gathering, and their partying hasn't even got started yet. There are the best scented guests whose exquisite perfume greets you before they do. On the periphery, there are slightly prickly guests who need a little gentle grooming before they are ready to party. There are the party-hardy guests with true staying power. They've been dressed in their best since the beginning of March. Finally, there are the big presents people, unmissable and immediately likeable, statuesque personalities that nonetheless have warmth to their core that draw everyone towards them in an irresistible way. These are the gorgeous Globemaster alliums. Last June, we were filming with our old friends at Skylark's Garden in Kent, and I watched eager bees drinking from nectar that dripped like candle wax from the airy candelabras of Sicilian honey garlic. I made a mental note that come autumn I must buy some of these wonderful bulbs for our container garden, and I did. Only I didn't, because having not paid enough attention to the name, the 3 bulbs I actually ordered turned out to be a different species of wild onion called Nectaroscordum tripedale, hopefully also pronounced that way, commonly known as pink honey garlic. In mid-May, flowers began to emerge from behind their see-through shower curtain. I thought they looked charmingly pretty, but decidedly pinker than anticipated. There followed a slightly clumsy kind of striptease as each stalk from the tightly packed umbel revealed itself. I could see an endearing candy-striped sweetness to them, whereas their wild onion cousin has a more intriguingly nuanced appearance. The umbel began with a pendulous form, gradually becoming more pyramidal in shape. Their height at over a metre tall creates an added layer of interest in the container display. Although the flowers only lasted around 4 weeks, the pale seed heads continue to provide statuesque textural interest. I didn't notice until now that the leaves have long shriveled away, hidden under the wild violets. But here's how they looked in March amongst the crocus. One of the loveliest things about pink honey garlic is that being part of the allium genus, it brings in lots of bees. And insects bring in birds. The lavender rondel in the centre of the garden is a strong symmetrical element that helps fool the eye and make our small space look larger than it really is. I laid the curving brick paths over 20 years ago, one of the first projects undertaken in our garden, and it provides a structural focal point all year round. The beds are planted with aromatic English lavender Folgate, which has quite a neat habit and beautiful blue intensity in full flower. Two years ago, we dug out our very woody-looking 10-year-old lavender bushes, uncovering a couple of oak tree saplings, which are now growing as part of our friend's mixed native hedgerow. Added sackfuls of grit to improve drainage on our soggy soil, and heaped up the earth into a slight mound to keep the roots of the young lavender plants away from pooling water. Here they are awaiting planting. We bought them from a local nursery the previous October as economical 9cm pots, then grew them on over winter in our 5.5 litre summer annual pots. But on a well-drained site, these could have gone straight into the ground in autumn. So by the following April, they didn't have much to show above ground, but they'd already developed a nice strong root system, filling each pot. Our young plants were quick to establish and flowering by June. After blooming, we prune away about a third of soft foliage to help plants maintain their youthful looks for longer, but with a slight sense of regret at losing the relaxed, nostalgic charm of faded lavender sprays. Maybe I'll just leave them this year. The base of the Mediterranean-style planter in the middle of the rondel is encircled by utterly delightful Campanula garganica, Dixon's Gold, which has wonderful bright green, softly mounded foliage that's swathed in the most dreamy pale lavender blue flowers in early summer. Blooms develop in layers, so you will often see bumblebees disappear beneath the surface to forage, or hear buzzing from within the plant before a bee suddenly emerges into the light. In a symphony of violet blues, Dixon's Gold is joined by Nemesia denim. And within the container, we introduced intensely eye-catching bearded iris Mer du Sud a couple of years ago. Bearded iris need excellent drainage, and in our very wet April, I kept a watchful eye on the rhizome, which is left exposed to receive as much sun as possible for productive flowering in the subsequent year. I could see plenty of healthy new leaves appearing, which seemed a positive sign, even if slugs were busy making holes in them at night. But the iris flowers that emerged were quite unexpected decidedly white. This is dwarf bearded iris frosted angel, which was planted about 10 years ago, and after a succession of years where it succumbed to disfiguring disease, we had dug out all the rhizomes, or so we thought, replaced the compost and planted Mer du Sud. In fact, none of these iris leaves were attached to the Mer du Sud rhizome. On further investigation, it was in fact a rootless hollow shell. So while we really missed the full-on visual impact of its intense colour this year, we did appreciate Frosted Angel's will to survive and the harmony of white flowers in its pairing with sun-loving silverbush. Our gardens are synonymous with a whole rainbow of emotions. The pleasure and joy of colourful scenes. The soothing essence of a medley of greens. The horrors of midnight's hungry hordes. The occasional weariness of caterpillar chores. But this time I felt guilt and regret over the apple tree emergency because I was so focused on the aesthetics above ground, I forgot the importance of what was happening out of sight below. In April, I added the powerfully magenta pink phlox subulata to the existing succulents growing under the container apple trees in a mound of gravel-covered compost. What this topping did in one of the wettest periods on record was further reduce evaporation of the already utterly saturated soil in the containers. Watching in dismay as one of the pair of much-loved trees lost absolutely all its newly emerged foliage and blossom, we realised that our formerly championed drainage system, which had previously helped sustain the trees through dry spells, was blocked and unwittingly drowning the fragile tree roots due to unprecedented levels of rainfall. We drilled additional drainage holes and are now keeping fingers firmly crossed for recovery, plus a wish for good tree health on a dandelion clock. In the meantime, I have added some loosely draped artificial ivy to the bare limbs, which, at a purely superficial level, helps lessen my feelings of guilt. The tree branches remain alive and green under the bark, so we hope that after a period of regeneration, the tree will blossom and fruit again next year. One tree providing compensatory pleasure for the uncomfortable feelings of culpability with the rather afflicted apple tree is our holly standard. Not only glossily gorgeous all year round, but offering berries for the birds, delicate white flowers emerging from rosy tinged buds, a pleasing pollen and nectar source for foraging bumblebees. I was particularly thrilled to witness in May a female holly blue laying her eggs beneath the flower buds. In this slowed down footage, you see her curl her abdomen towards the flower stem and then a single egg is deposited. The flower and surrounding new foliage will be the food source for the hatching caterpillar, and then it's off to another area of the plant to lay another egg. When the caterpillars emerge from eggs, eat, molt repeatedly, pupate closer to the ground and depart their chrysalis as butterflies, this new generation will typically lay their eggs in late August, not on holly but on ivy, and the ivy-born butterflies that emerge next year will start the cycle again, laying eggs on holly. Last summer, our seed-grown Ladybird Poppies were a cheerfully uplifting and thoroughly endearing new addition to the patio display. Although from shop-supplied seed, a few random poppies sprung up, each with their own unique charms. I've been told that Ladybird comes true from seed, but unexpectedly in this year's generation, none of the autumn sown plants truly resemble the classic Ladybird poppy look, although they do add a sense of energy to the garden and are deeply pleasing in their own vibrant way, being enormously attractive to bees. As well as enticing in ladybirds to feed on the aphids their stems seem to attract. So next year I will probably be sowing ladybird poppies with supplier bought seed because I miss those distinctive friendly faces. But for now we're enjoying ladybird's children, bringing saturated colour and slightly wild character to our patio flower display. The noticeably cooler than average temperatures at the start of this month have meant that the mysterious pink climbing bells of Foxgloves and the elegant creamy white bracts of Cornuscusa that began blooming in May have maintained peak flowering for longer across June than in previous years, probably reflecting the fact that soil has remained damp enough to fully meet their moisture needs. They grow in the shadier northeast-facing corner of the garden, a lush ferny pocket adjacent to the frog pond, and this damp corner favoured by slugs and snails is the perfect hunting ground for amphibians. The pond began as a circular garden shrub sunk into a raised bed, but it's become oval-shaped over the years as encroaching plant roots squeeze it together. It's too deep for spawning and is more a casual hangout spot with lots of frog-friendly hiding places and layers of leafage keeping the surroundings cool and creatures concealed. I think the saying ugly as a toad is grossly misplaced. This is the beautiful guardian of the pond. He is big enough to fight off and even eat the grass snakes that occasionally come in search of frogs. Temperatures have been rising over the past week, and something I noticed on one particularly hot day was the way the gently animated, breeze-responsive branches of the dogwood tree created a downdraft of cooling air as though I was being gently fanned. It reminded me of the effect under trembling aspens on a scorching hot day, a rejuvenating experience when cooling airflow caresses you and saves you from the breezeless stillness hanging over baking earth. I don't often spot these trees in our city environments, but perhaps they could be helpful in reducing the urban heat island effect in our built-up spaces. A flower-laden thank you to everyone who joins us for our garden tours, engages with, subscribes to and supports us here at Apple Pea Fern Sea. We hope you'll enjoy these scenes of the wonderful wildlife and bountiful June blooms that make gardens such a special place at this time of year. Havens of growth, new life, hopefulness and happiness. Until next time, we wish you all, dear friends, flowerful times and nature-soothed minds. Slug Patrol.